So Xiaomi finally unveiled its fresh new Mi 10 flagship phone just a couple of weeks back, and that really gave me a hankering to slap my SIM back inside of this beast here, the Mi Note 10, especially as I never got around to actually fully reviewing it when it first launched about 5 months ago. The Mi Note 10 definitely got us mobile tech nerds all hot and bothered with its pioneering 108 megapixel camera tech, but that was just a headline grabber. This mighty 6.5-inch monster also packs in a massive battery, a beautiful AMOLED screen, and plenty of premium tech considering that sub £500 asking price. Splurdouche. So is the Xiaomi Mi Note 10 still a solid purchase in 2020? Well, here at last is my full tardy review, and for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So my first impression of this smartphone when I yanked it out of the box was, damn, this thing looks just like the Huawei P30 Pro. You get a similar curvy finish with similarly skinny bezels and a similar all-glass construction, plus a very similar camera chassis slapped around back. And it's a heavy bugger too, definitely one of the proper heftiest handsets of recent times. If you want a more poppy colour than white or black, then your only other option is green, but luckily it is a rather charming green here on the Mi Note 10, even if it does lack that sultry gradient finish of Huawei's handsets. There's no dedicated water resistance unfortunately, but apart from that, the Mi Note 10 seems like a hardy wee blighter. You get a nice bit of Gorilla Glass 5 action slathered on the front and Gorilla Glass on the back as well. So overall, if you don't mind having something big and heavy stashed in your shorts, then the Mi Note 10 definitely looks pretty good for an upper mid-range mobile. It's not a standout, but it is suitably slick. Now me and MiUI haven't always got on, but it is at least the very latest version of MiUI 11, stashed here on the Mi Note 10. Me. And as usual, of course, it completely changes up the look and feel of Google's Android OS. But the question is, does MiUI 11 bring much new stuff to the table, and is it actually a pleasurable everyday experience? Well, kind of, to be fair. As usual, you get a fair few bonus features thrown in here, like a solid one-handed mode and a useful gaming mode too, which all add to the Android experience. Unfortunately, as usual, you also get a hefty helping of crapware here on the Mi Note 10, including, for instance, 3 separate browsers. You've got the MiUI browser, you've got the Opera browser, and you've got Google's Chrome. But the absolute game changer for me personally is the fact that MiUI 11 has an actual apps drawer, so you can stash all this stuff away out of sight and forget about it if you don't want it. Hallelujah. Unfortunately, the apps tray is occasionally a little bit glitchy, creating these random little gaps for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And occasionally all those icons will just disappear from the dock for absolutely no reason whatsoever as well. This is just a screenshot of the last time it happened to me. So definitely MiUI is still a little bit quirky and a wee bit buggy in places. And it's also kind of disappointing that we're still on Android version 9 here as well. You do get some version 10 features like a dark mode on board, but this doesn't extend to your apps, just the settings menu. Touch wood though, so far the Mi Note 10 has stayed relatively up to date as far as the security patches go, so that's something at least. Now moving on to media, and that 6.47-inch AMOLED display oozes over the edges of the Mi Note 10 for a practically bezel-free finish. And the sleek design certainly gets a 10 out of 10 on the boner popping scale, but unfortunately I did find that those really narrow bezels did mean that occasionally my palm flesh would intrude on the display, and occasionally my apps would act a bit funny. I'd end up selecting things that I didn't really want to. Basically, you've got to teach yourself not to clutch the Mi Note 10 too tightly, which is kind of counterintuitive because it's a big heavy brick-like thing that you definitely do not want face planting concrete. But regardless, the screen itself makes your movies, pics and other bits look very pretty indeed. Colour saturation and temperature are actively adjusted to suit your environmental conditions, although I did find that the visuals tended to look more natural rather than the super vivid hues that you often get with OLED panels. There's HDR10 support for content streamed through the likes of Netflix, while the Full HD Plus resolution means everything stays sharp enough despite the bloody huge size of this thing. Sure, it's not Quad HD or anything, but it is absolutely fine for kicking back with a full film when you can't be arsed to work or look after your kids any longer. Sadly, there is no 90Hz refresh rate on offer or anything like that, but it's only really an issue if you're kind of used to that fast refresh to begin with. I got over it fairly fast. And no concerns at all with outdoor visibility, while that dinky central notch barely intrudes on the viewing space at all when you go full screen. So no worries if you're not a notch lover, especially as you can hide it away in the settings nice and easy. Unfortunately, the Mi Note 10 doesn't really impress that much on the audio front, starting with that single mono speaker housed down on the bottom edge. It's very easy to accidentally muffle when you're clutching the thing for gaming or watching a bit of movie action, and it's average at best. As for Bluetooth, you've got a nice bit of LDAC action for streaming to supported devices for nice crisp, clear audio. Though I did notice that when streaming to some older speakers, for instance, it did get a little bit stuttery at times, even when I was right next to the speaker with nothing in between them. But on the flip side, you do actually get a ruddy headphone jack down below. Burgizers. Now, while most of its smartphone specs are are pleasingly premium, especially here on the Mi Note 10, Xiaomi often opts for more of a mid-range chipset compared with those super pricey premium efforts, and the Mi Note 10 is no different. What you get packed on here is Qualcomm's 730G Snapdragon chipset instead of one of the 800 series efforts. It would have been the 855 because this thing came out before the 865 was launched. But that is backed by a very respectable 6 gigs of RAM, so you do get pretty smooth running most of the time. Only occasionally did I see a little stutter or stumble as the Note struggled to keep up with my taps and swipes. That said, a more premium beefy chipset would have definitely been appreciated here on the Mi Note 10 when dealing with that camera tech, especially considering the strength of some of the optics on here. Gamers will be just fine with the Note 10 though. After all, the G in the 730G stands for gaming, with a boost to those Adreno graphics versus the standard 730 platform. There's full support for up to HDR quality visuals here, although PUBG Mobile currently maxes out on the high graphics setting rather than HDR, and I found that the frame rate remained consistently fluid even without switching on the game turbo feature. Let's face it, if a cack-handed nubber like me can play second in a game like this, you know this is a decent bit of hardware. And Xiaomi has also included plenty of gamer features too, like the usual screen record tools and other bits as well. And the Mi Note 10 also has a flippin' huge 5260 mAh battery stuffed inside, which is bigger than other Godzilla handsets like the Galaxy S20 Ultra and the Huawei P40 Pro. I'm sure battery life isn't mind-blowing, but it's easily good enough to keep you powered up all day, even if you're never off the Mi Note 10, with loads of media streaming, gaming and camera playtime. The only time I came even close to completely draining the Mi Note 10 in a single day was when I'd literally been gaming for an hour, was Skyping for 2 full hours, doing plenty of media streaming and such forth, and even then I still had some dregs left when I staggered into bed at like 1 AM. And when it is finally fully drained, thankfully you've got some 30-watt fast charging which will get you powered up again no problem. Generally about 30 to 40 minutes on the plug is enough to give you a standard day's worth. Now, I've been saving the most interesting bit of this blower for last, that pentalens rear camera, which serves up the very first 108 megapixel shooter ever found on a smartphone. As well as that mega snapper, you also have a 5 megapixel telephoto lens, a 12 megapixel portrait camera, a 20 megapixel wide angle shooter, and finally a mere 2 megapixel macro lens. In my general everyday testing, I found that the Mi Note 10 is absolutely fine for your standard pics and movies, but not anything particularly standout. Colours are naturally reproduced with the AI mode deactivated, and the standard auto mode captures plenty of fine detail, pumping out 6016 by 4512 pics that look great when blown up. Otherwise, the 108 megapixel mode is ideal if you want to crop into a shot later and still retain that sharp finish. Portrait snaps look fantastic with full control over the aperture and bokeh effects. Just stay away from those shonky studio efforts. And the wide angle and telephoto lenses are fine for getting a different viewpoint, although both do struggle in low light situations. And I'm not really sure why that telephoto lens even exists, considering you can just take a 108 megapixel snap and then crop in later. Meanwhile, that low res macro lens, which I still don't really see the point in, produces overly warm images all of the time, so I just not bother. You do thankfully also get a dedicated night mode here on the Mi Note 10 as well, which just helps to temper any saturation and produce slightly more balanced pics. But as I mentioned before, the Snapdragon 730G chipset definitely kind of struggles at times when it comes to the camera tech, so you'll have to be rather patient while it lethargically processes your shots. As for video, you can capture 4K res footage at 30 FPS, and the results are shot up with poppy colour reproduction, while Xiaomi has added in the now standard features like a super steady mode, as well as a vlog mode for easy editing on the fly. So overall, it is a perfectly decent, if slightly overcomplicated camera arrangement, and the average Joe will get plenty of use out of it, although I'm getting the feeling a lot of those bonus features, including the 100 megapixel modes, aren't really going to get that much use. And that right there is my full review of the Xiaomi Mi Note 10 5 months after it came out and just before the Mi 10 hit stores. You definitely get some strong specs and features on here to rival the likes of the OnePluses of the world, apart from, of course, that 730G chipset, which is a little bit more pared down. If you want that really top-end premium performance, then definitely look to the likes of the OnePlus 8, which will be launching in just over a week, which should come packing the latest Snapdragon 865. But have you been using the Xiaomi Mi Note 10 as your full-time handset for the past few months? It'd be great to hear your own personal mini review down in the comments below. Please do subscribe, ding that notification bell, and have yourselves a blind and weak people. Jaws.